This morning, I would like to help you identify with the three states that we are conscious of and help you discover where you are at and where you need to go, and then how to go there. I would like to keep it mostly up there, and I've written it all down, and I think it would be very good for you to copy it and take it with you. Because if you understand these sentences that I will put down here, you will be there. So in the future you can look at them, read them, and try to make that knowledge your knowledge. When you do, that's it. So, to identify where you are at, you know there's you, and that's simply when I ask, are you? And you say yes, that's it. Which sets up your mind, which sets up your body and world. And so you are aware of these three things. Now the real you, your isness, your amness, your existence, your are-ness, etc., it's all the same thing, has no limitation. It's whole, complete, perfect, eternal. And when you identify with that, that's it. But you have already set up your mind, which is ancient by now, and is extremely overloaded with programs and their resultant thoughts. And your biggest program is, I am this body. With all the incumbent millions of things I need to do to keep it surviving. And these things keep you busy 24 hours a day. Working at them, resting from them, working at them, and resting from them. So try to find out where you're at. Remember the experiences you had when you were up here, number one. Remember how wonderful that state was. It will encourage you to keep trying until you can sustain that state all the time. Number one is the real you, is the changeless you. Number 2 and 3 is the ego personality you. Is the fiction you. Is the story you. Is the program you. In 2 and 3, you gather up and hold all the limitations that you have placed upon yourself over the millennia. So what do we need to do? Backtrack the way we came. Start undoing the concepts of being a body, of being a mind. And of course you all know how to do that. Release. That's your basic programs. Approval, control, security. And the three states that in here, as you know, being is your beingness only. If you're being your beingness, there is nothing else. When you're being your beingness, there is no otherness whatsoever. And what you see is I only out there. As I said before, if you really understand what I'm saying, you're there. So please write these down, take them home with you, and work on them until you are established there, with a capital T. The doing state, of course, is your position, your place in the world. The higher up you are, the greater you are with freedom, the more you are doing, the higher your place. The president in beingness is higher than the Senate, which is higher than the House, which is higher than the average public. They have released enough to be mostly in the doing state. Of course, these are your corporate heads, all the big doers, all the big achievers. And down here we have 95% of the population who are in havingness, who think their thing lies in having. If only I could have this. If only I could have her. If only I could have him. If only I could have this car. If only I could have a Rolls Royce, a Maserati. If only I could have $1 million. On and on and on it goes. And you're constantly identifying with things. That things give you your welfare. You move up, get into courageousness, and ride around both sides of that. You're in doing this. Up in being this, we don't even have 1% of the population there. It's a small fraction of 1% who do nothing but all the time identify with their beingness. They are the Christs, the Buddhas, the Yoganandas, the Ramakrishnas, etc. They are never out there in the world working for a living. So up here, we have a small fraction of 1%. In the doingness area, you have about 5%. Smaller doers are professionals. They go out on their own. Small business people. People who don't have to punch a time clock. People who don't hold jobs under someone else. Holding a job is a slave consciousness. I can only live by working for someone else doing what they tell me to do. Had we not the slave consciousness on this earth, no one would be working for anyone. It would be a totally, complete, cooperative society. So you see where we have gotten ourselves to. We really went down to the bottom, but we are now coming up from the bottom, going up, up and away. Happiness is your bank book and possessions. I think that's kind of obvious. There's three things that you identify with. You, your beingness, your mind, and your body. Now the real you is your beingness. And when you're identifying with your beingness, you're in the most wonderful state there is. And when you're identifying with the body, you're in the worst state there is. And you're in constant trouble. And you're trying to survive a thing that will not survive. And you're spending all your time doing that stupid, silly thing. Now, as you release your programs, you identify less with the body and more with your beingness. And when the programs are out, it's only natural for you to identify with your beingness all the time. And that's it. So next time you get up here, remain there as much as you can. And from there you can really get up the garbage. It's impossible to write it down. You cannot describe beingness. In order to use words, you have to come down from beingness into mind. Mind can never comprehend beingness because it's below it. You can remember it was great. And want, with your mind, to go back there by dumping the programs. No programs, you're there all the time. If you get these concepts, it'll help you keep moving upward. And when you get there, using that state to remain in that state by getting the deepest garbage up and out. When you're up there, you could theoretically, like that, dump all the garbage. I am not all our garbage. Done with it. It's theoretically possible if you'll do it. But the least you can do is when you're up there, work to dump the feelings that are coming up. And if they're not coming up, stoop down, dig down, look for them. You can look down. And because you're up, you're very able to handle them and release them. Just opening and letting it out is stopping holding it down. Really, all that pressure would push out. Resistance. We're using energy to hold down all that suppressed ag flap. So yes, when you stop holding it down, it goes out. When you're up there, it happens much more so because you're not going to stupidly hold that garbage down as you do when you're spinning in it, swimming in it. When you're down in it, you think the garbage is you. When you're up there, you know it isn't. So you're willing to let it go out. When you're released, you're up. When the garbage is in play, you're down. See, you are always your beingness. You got no choice on that. Let me see you not be. Can you do it? Even those who try to be by committing suicide don't succeed. They get a sense of being more alive with a better body. It's impossible to not be. This is the ridiculousness of the whole thing. Thou art that which thou art seeking. You're an infinite being. It's your beingness. Identify with it, and that's all there is. I have 5 words that indicate the free state that you can use as a goal to be achieved. 5 of the most important words in your vocabulary. 5 of the most important words in your mind. Any one of which, when obtained, has you in the state of freedom. Number 1, you get to the place where no one and nothing can ever disturb you again. Even death facing you doesn't disturb you one bit. And you could watch yourself. You could watch your body being squeezed out slowly with a big smile on your face when you're up here. Nothing, not even death itself, can disturb you. Not even approaching death. Desirelessness is mental quiety, mental quietness. Desire is the agony of lack, which when fulfilled momentarily stops the mind from its agitation, and you are being your beingness. And it's great, and it's a pleasure, and it's happiness. What you don't see is that it was not the thing, it was not the person, but it was the quieting of your thoughts that made you happy. There goes all hanging on relationships. You don't need the other person to be happy. Now, I'm not saying break up all relationships. Know what it is. Your relationship is filling a need, a desire. Release the desire, then you might continue the relationship and you might not. If you do, your whole effort is to help the other one discover what you discovered. So a relationship should be, basically, wanting to help the other one go free. And if it isn't that, I say it is sick, as all of you know from your experiencing. Your greatest misery in life is from your relationships. You get moments of pleasure and tremendous amounts of pain. All that disappears when you identify properly with your beingness and have the wish to release the attachments, the approval, the control over the other one. If you want an expression, you can say, the other one is God. My children are God's children. Release, let go, let God, and your children will come up the best. So desire is our number one enemy. It's an artificially created lack, which we continually try to satisfy and never satisfy it. There isn't a single desire you've had that you've ever satisfied. Because the more you try to satisfy it, the stronger the desire becomes. It's impossible to satisfy desire. It's very possible to release. You see, if you could satisfy desire, you'd have everything once and you'd be satisfied. But in trying to satisfy that desire, you just want it again and again and again and forever. So desire is a number one enemy. And when you let go of that agony of lack, you discover you have everything. The universe is yours with no effort. And so number 3 comes into being. Since the universe is yours, what effort do you have to go through to get it? None. Life actually becomes effortless. And since everything is mine, there's no need to struggle, scratch, and fight to get it. And so we get the inner sense of actionlessness. Reminds me of a time when I first discovered this. I was walking down 57th Street toward Hamburger Heaven between 6th and 7th Avenue. And I said, Paul, we have never moved. And I'm walking along. We have never moved, Paul. And I'm so excited. Telling him we have never moved as we're walking into the restaurant. And since that time, it's never left me. I have never moved. The real I has never moved. It can't. It's omnipresent. Where's it going to move to? But the fictionalized body on the screen of the mind concocts a movement. But it's not real. Your mind is like the screen in a cinema show. It's changeless. It's white. It's pure. It's actionless. It's effortless. It's imperturbable. But projected on that screen can be people, fights, wars, floods, fires, riots. Now, what does that do to the screen? Nothing. And it's exactly that way for us. However, if you're watching a movie and you think you are the character, that character is suffering, you're crying. Likewise, you identify with this body and all the programs you set up for it. If you don't identify with the body, if you don't identify with the screen, with the projected pictures on the screen, you discover you are the imperturbable, desireless, effortless, actionless being, just witnessing. When these things set in, you hold the sense that I have never moved. And from that point, you witness the world go by. The same way you witness a moving picture. You see the entire world that way. to help you get there, I set out helpful directions in several groups that seem to group together. If you will constantly keep identifying with your beingness, you will stay in such a beautifully high state. It will help you establish it for all time. Try to keep identifying with I am. Another thing is to hold the thought I, nothing else. Because when you say I, just alone, without anything with it, it's your beingness. And when you're free, that's the sense of consciousness you have, just I all the time. As Vivekananda said, when he reached the end of the line, he discovered there never was anything but I all alone. There's nothing but I-ness. And the I-ness projected all the supposed otherness, but since it was a projection of the I, it is the I. Number 3, be not the doer. If you are identifying with your beingness, you don't see yourself as a doer. I can remember when I first started talking to people, they would say, "You're a teacher." And I'd say, "No, I'm not." They'd say, "Yes, you are." And I'd say, "No, I'm not." I could not see myself teaching, talking to anyone other than me to me. If I'm talking to me, I'm not being a teacher. So try to get the sense of be not the doer. Be the beer. That's not B-E-E-R. That's B-E apostrophe. Okay, now number 4 is a very important one. It's going to save you so much effort. There's only one single happiness, and that is when you are being your beingness, by quieting your mind in satisfying desires. It's the only happiness there is, when you're being your beingness, and you wrongly attribute it to the thing and person. So if you'll make it a habit of noticing that all the feelings of happiness you experience are when you're quiet and just being. If you will do that, you will stop chasing lifetime in and lifetime out for happiness out there where it is not. It's so important when you discover that all your happiness is when you're identifying with your beingness, because it takes the majority of effort out of your life. And when you do those things, you will identify with everyone as being you. You will identify with every atom in this universe as being you. And the real knowing is being. There is nothing to know except one thing, which is to be. Which, knowing that, you know everything. Real knowing means being. That's what everyone in his or her every act is seeking. That is the knowledge with a capital K. But that knowledge is not knowing something It's knowing to only be. Coming down just a bit, see nothing out there but your sum total thinkingness, because that is exactly what it is. All your thinkingness, most of which is below the level of consciousness, is what you're seeing out there. It's your picture projected from your mind. And you're only seeing it in your mind. It's only your mind that says it's out there. And the proof of that is when you go to sleep. Where does the world go? It's gone. So where is it? It's in your mind. You wake up the mind, there's the world again. Put the mind to sleep, that whole world is gone. Even if you've lost a close relative, a close one, you go to sleep, that death is gone. So where is dying but in the mind? There's nothing out there but your sum total thinkingness, most of which is subconscious. When you realize that, if you don't like it out there, you change the picture in here, and the picture out there changes instantly. And as I told you, each one has his or her own picture. We all think we're seeing the same thing, but we're only seeing our own pictures. And it's brought out so succinctly in an accident, which is not related to us. 5 of us look at it, we hand in 5 reports as to what happened. You see how distorted we get on things that concern us? We can't even see what's external, actual out there that doesn't concern us. So how accurate are we in seeing the other one's picture or what's going on? We only see our sum total thinkingness out there. If you don't like the picture out there, change yourself. What is actually out there is your beingness. The reality of the world is not world as the illusion we see it. The reality of the world is the beingness behind it. And that beingness behind the world is your beingness when you identify with your beingness. So there is, in actuality, nothing out there but your beingness. And when you see that, you see number 3 here, no objectivity, only subjectivity. Instead of seeing yourself in the body and your body in the world, the body is in you, the world is in you, and the universe is in you. Just like in a night dream, when you're sleeping. You could bring a whole trip to Mars into your bedroom there. And as far as you're concerned, you're flying to Mars. So where was that trip to Mars? But within you, in your bedroom, in your dream. It's exactly the same way in the so-called waking state. This waking state is a sleep state. Until you wake up from it, you're not aware of that fact. But as you keep releasing, someday you're going to see this state, the waking state, is as real as a night dream state is real after you wake up from it. You wake up from this dream called waking state, then you see that this whole thing was just a dream that never really was. All that effort for nothing except misery. So your world becomes subjective. It's in you. It's not external to you. It's your creation. So, work to totally quiet the mind until there are no thoughts. The mechanism called mind changes from being a very turbulent ocean where you see waves all the time, that's the way it is now, to all the waves disappearing, all the tiny ripples disappear. Then it's a waveless ocean with no boundaries. And your mind becomes that way, totally quiet, not even a ripple. And when that happens, you become intuitive. From your eye, everything comes out of it anyway. The I of you, your beingness, is omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. And when you quiet the mind, you naturally identify with your beingness and are intuitive only. To bring it down to practicality, when you're intuitive, you can talk to anyone on his or her subject and help them learn more, even though you have never studied it. Even details and facts. You're coming from omniscience. There was a time I did this when the first years after I got free. And it's like, see, you don't move. You watch your body like you're watching other bodies. You watch your body talk, you listen to your body talk, and you say, gee, that's interesting. See, that's the personality side of you watching the free side, the intuitive side. All study becomes useless when you're in touch with omniscience. So all these teachings of spirituality in this direction, in that direction, another direction, over the thousands of years hasn't helped much. All that teaching has activated the mind. The only answer can be gotten by quieting the mind so that you will naturally identify with your beingness. And 3, do not identify with your body and mind. Take it as a character out there. Give it its just due. Do not overdo on it. And again, you've heard me say, does this chemical have more power than I have over this body? This is the pill generation we're into now. Everything can be cured by pills. How does a pill get more intelligence than we? It's ridiculous. If it helps us, it's our intelligence saying this pill is going to do something. It's not the pill doing it. It's our saying that the pill will do it. Give the body its just due. Don't overdo with it. So that your attention can go more toward beingness. Overpaying attention to the body keeps you bogged down into being that extreme, limited carcass, which is an absolute no-win in the first place. It goes. From the moment you get it born, it starts dying, and finally succeeds in dying. So why put all that attention to it? We ought to have carcasses around so people can play with them. It might wake you up, because that body's going to be a carcass. And as I used to say, you ride around in a car. Is that you? No, that's a car case. A carcass. This is a car case. Like an automobile. You're not the automobile because you move around in it. You're not this body because you move around in it. So a car case and a carcass are very similar. So give the body its just due and spend your time identifying with yourself. Spend your time releasing the blocks to identifying with yourself. Until you end up with no attachments and no aversions. You should have things. You should have things for use, with no attachment and no aversion. And when you have no attachments and no aversions, you will have everything for a mere effortless thought of it. So if you have any concepts of giving up on the path, there's one single thing you give up. That's your miseries, your limitations. But on the path, you take on more and more and more until you have the universe. Don't allow your mind to sabotage you by saying you're going to lose everything if you go free. Don't allow your mind to sabotage you by saying, I will die if I go free. And these feelings are strong within you right now. I will die if I go free. If you didn't have that, you'd be free. You know the way. Allow all that suppressed energy up and out. If you didn't sit on it, it'd all go out and you'd be free in minutes. Don't allow your mind to sabotage you. It fights for its survival because we programmed it that way. It's like how the computer in the picture 2001. But since we programmed it to keep us bogged down, we can always deprogram it so it cannot touch us. So now that you've got everything, there's nothing more for me to say. Be yourself. You've got no choice on that. That's the ridiculousness of this whole world of living. You're infinite, you're omnipotent, you're omniscient, you're omnipresent right here and now at this moment. Concocting a mind which says otherwise.